Welcome back. We've introduced Unit 3. We've spoken about what is ATP, where is it found, where is it created. You're going to guide yourself through the food fuels in a moment, but there's also a diagram within your holiday homework that shows you how ATP is broken apart. And we spoke about in the last video the high energy bonds. I just wanted to show you very quickly that we know we've got our adenosine and we've got our 3 phosphates that make this molecular compound, molecules bonded together. And we have our adenosine and 3 phosphates, so adenosine triphosphate. We spoke about the energy in these bonds being critical to moving a muscle. And so what ends up happening is when the brain sends the message down to the muscle through the nerves, and the muscle receives that message and says, I want to contract, I want to move this bone closer to this bone, and therefore the muscle itself makes that contraction movement. The energy from this bond, in particular the bond between the 2nd and 3rd phosphate, is actually released. So we have ATP, adenosine triphosphate, becomes adenosine and 2 phosphates, with this 3rd and final phosphate having its bond broken. So we now are left with adenosine di, meaning 2 phosphate. This adenosine diphosphate also has its 3rd phosphate molecule that's now floating off to the side, still within the muscle area. We'll talk about it later, but it actually becomes an inorganic phosphate molecule. But what's not important right now is the adenosine and the phosphates. What's most important is actually what happened here. When this bond was broken, energy was released. And that energy moves the muscle. That happened because an item came past and allowed that bond to break and took the energy from that bond to the actual muscle fiber. And that thing that came past is an enzyme. The enzyme is something that speeds up a chemical reaction inside the body. And the enzyme in particular that came into this bond break is known as ATPase. ATPase. This is quite deep level information, and I know that it's the first time you're being exposed to it. There are other YouTubes that show animations of this process happening where ATP becomes ADP and P, where adenosine triphosphate becomes adenosine diphosphate. And the important part is that that bond that's broken because of the ATPase releases energy which moves the muscle. That energy from that broken bond is the most important element in this process.